In ranked, it's really important to understand the first pick advantage. A lot of the time, in Diamond Plus ELO, even Grandmaster players and checkmark people and pro players with the pro titles ban things wrongly. You know, the team that needs to ban, you know, for example, IO isn't the first picking team, it's the second picking team. You always want to try to bait out one of the OP champions so that you would get the higher advantage. Let me go ahead and explain that in detail. Now, let's imagine that we're playing on Ascension Peak for now. Our bans are gonna be, well, on both teams, the 4 bans are going to be Kinessa and Strix because snipers are good on this map, Bomb King because he's good on this map, and Io. Now here's how you bait out keeping one of those 4 champions in the game. One of the 2 teams has the first picking advantage. They can pick the very first champion that is decided in the matchmaking drafting phase. Well, that's the thing. You would start, for example, by banning Kinessa. Next up, the enemy is going to probably ban Bomb King because, well, they don't want you to get the Bomb King as a first pick. Next up, you will probably be banning Strix, and then they will ban Io. But guess what you can do now? Instead of banning Strix, go ahead and ban Victor. He's good as a sniper on this map, okay? He's really great at that. Now the enemy team has one of 2 choices. Either ban Io and play against Strix, or ban Strix and play against Io. This is the first picking advantage. You're always forcing the enemy to deal with a situation that they would really be at a disadvantage thanks to you saving one of the OP champions on that particular map. Please learn this. Now, this isn't really going to be in depth. I'm just gonna show you the portraits of each map and telling you what are the main bans on those maps. So we've already gone Ascension Peak. It's a sniping map. Of course, that's gonna mean you're gonna be banning both snipers. Now, if the enemy lets you ban Victor, that's good because Victor is really great here. He can stay behind, hide near the stairs just like any sniper, and take easy shots at anyone on the point. However, keep in mind that he can be played around, except for the nade. You know, his grenade is really good here. Because see these 2 statues near the point? This is the only map in the game with a square point. You can stand behind those statues, take no damage from any sniper whatsoever, and be contesting the objective. If you have Io on your side and she puts Luna behind those statues, you know, the enemy team, what are they gonna do? They're gonna be forced out of position just to deal with you. They might have to forget about the point, group up all together, go one flank and hunt you down just so that they would have a chance, which is the case in most cases anyway. Ascension Peak is the only siege map with a square point. I do not have to be standing in the middle to be contesting the point. Now, your point tank would be really better off using these statues as cover, since the enemy sniper will have a really hard time getting a shot in on them. Okay, let's talk about Bazaar. Now, this map is kind of weird to flank on. It's still possible. It's just that there's 2 elevation levels on the right and left side of the map, but still you can most likely see enemies coming. Now, here's the thing. The positioning on most supports on this map, other than Jenos and Corvus, who can heal through walls, or Grover, who can also, you know, he's gonna heal through walls anyway on this map. Well, the positioning is gonna be at the top left or the top right, depending on which side of the map you are on. That corner gives you the most lines of sight, but the problem with that is you're gonna be open to fire from any enemy backliner, including snipers. And yes, snipers are good on that map for the very exact same position. So if you manage to get a sniper, put your support and sniper together at the very same spot and use your ears to hear enemies coming from under you to deal with them when they, you know, come from behind or below you. That's the best positioning possible for both a backline damage and a support. You take that corner of the map that gives you the most lines of sight. Now, here's the funny thing about Bazaar. Ashe, as an off-tank, is really ban-worthy here because she can create so much space on this small map. There are tight corridors under the point. You know, the whole map is tight. She really is great on this map. So, if and only if your enemy bans Khan and leaves Ashe open, you're really gonna get free space to work with and do whatever the hell you feel like on this map. Now, the thing is, Terminus as an off-tank can almost do the same thing, except that he doesn't have the range or the spreading of Cauterize that Ashe can do. So yeah, I would run Ashe here any day, or ban her if I'm afraid of her being good on the enemy team. The thing is, you need to ban the 2 snipers first and ban Bomb King. So that's 3 bans. The last ban is gonna be one of the good tanks. Maybe you're gonna ban Ashe, maybe you're gonna ban Terminus, maybe you're gonna ban Khan. Okay, now Terminus isn't usually banned here. He is good, but Ashe is always going to be better than him. So if Khan is banned, which is the most commonly banned tank on this map because of how easy the stuns are to land, well, then Ashe and Terminus are free to roam around. You know, it's really gonna be hard to deal with Ashe. You can just stun Terminus out of his siphon with Furia, for example, and then you can deal with him if your team focuses him. I can say the very same thing about Ashe, except her shield is a deployable. If she has her shield in front of her, the shield will protect her anyway. Of course, I cannot forget about Io. Io is always going to be ban-worthy. You see, the point has the pillar in the middle that Io can hide Luna behind, and that really will hurt the enemy since they'll need to move up a little bit just to deal with Luna. It's not impossible, but still, Io is really annoying here. So if you don't have the first picking advantage, you're going to be forced into banning the snipers and BK if the enemy doesn't. Well, and then you're gonna be left off having to deal with Io. Now, if the enemy themselves start by banning Kinessa, for example, you can ban Bomb King. Then, if the enemy bans, you know, the other sniper strikes, then you can ban Io. If you're not afraid of Io, then you're better off banning Victor here, because he can also snipe the same way the other 2 snipers can. As a matter of fact, there's literally barely any fall off. Okay, it's almost 620 damage per burst from the high ground on your side to theirs. Really, he can snipe on this map. So yeah, I would ban Victor here. This is the problem with banning. You're always going to be forced to play against one of the good champions, so you've got to understand how to counter that champion, you know, how to give them a hard time. You know, any damaged champion gets a hard time if there's an off tank in their face all the time. And then their own backliner is gonna be dealing with that champion that's usually annoying. So it's a team game. You can still play around those unbanned champions, but it's really always better off banning Io than Victor. Just deal with Victor instead. Brightmarsh is not a good sniping map. There's only one spot a sniper can stand in and be useful to the team, and that's exactly behind the point on top of the boxes. Now, the thing is about Brightmarsh, well, let's talk about Kinessa, for example. She's only going to be good on the defensive with her ultimate, since when the payload is almost at its destination, she can use the ult to get a triple or a double at overtime, sometimes even a quadra. But still, snipers aren't good here, so you don't ban them. Instead, even if the enemy picks them, which is not really the case most of the time, you just deal with them. You send your off-tank and flanker or one of them to deal with them and annoy them a lot, because they're always going to be at that one spot. If they're out of that spot, they're not dealing damage. They're not hurting the other team. They're not doing their job, and that's good for you. That's why you don't want to ban snipers here, because most likely they're gonna be like a throw pick on this map. Not exactly, but still, they're not that great here. Now, this map is kind of weird. You see, there are position first champions here on this map. What do I mean by that? Moji is never ever gonna go near the stairs. She's at the disadvantage near that point because, well, simply enough, any flying champion, like for example Androxus, is gonna beat her every single time on that lane. For example, Drogoz, if he was left unchecked here on this map, you know, you didn't pick Victor or Leon or whatever else hit scanner, you're just going to have a bad time against Drogoz. So the thing about the stairs side is that it's really annoying to some champions in the game, like for example Moji. So Moji is ban worthy here, but still not really that much. You can easily deal with her given that you always know she's gonna be near the houses. And this is a problem if you're on the team that has Moji. You see, some champions, like for example Io, she needs line of sight, right, to heal people. What if I told you that the best positioning for Io is on the stairs? What are you gonna do about Moji now? Use your mobility to stay above the point, you know, the spot that Grover usually is on, or Rocket sometimes if he uses aerial assault. You know, that's just not gonna happen. You're not gonna be able to heal your own Moji on Brightmarsh, simply enough because your best positioning for the entire rest of the team does not happen to be the same one as Moji. You can't just keep following her in those tight corridors, you know? You're not just healing Moji on her own, you need to heal the whole team. And it's not about Io only. Any other line of sight healer needs to be near the stairs. It's a common thing, you know? So Jenos does have an advantage over Io on this map, for example, just because of the fact that he's not locked in to a singular lane. And I know that there are windows that you can heal from, but people really don't know how to position around that. You know, you tell them to go back a bit, go back a bit, go back a bit, and then they don't understand what you're even talking about. You're the support. They just blame you for no reason, while they are making the mistake of going on the lane that happens to be good for the champion, but not for yours. So I wouldn't ever ban Moji here, because I can just deal with her by bringing any shield to the fight. So, no, this is not a map that I would ban Moji on, no matter what. Just put a shield in her face, in her common spot, and that's that. So Khan probably will always be winning against Moji, because he can shield anyone behind him, get close enough, do the stun is 3 full seconds, and then in that time she's gonna be dead. If she wakes up, she's immediately gonna be using magical barrier, and then you will have a little window to deal with her. Don't shoot the shield so that you don't get a full mark and get bursted down quicker. Just wait for her magical shield to be over, the barrier, sorry, and then you deal with her. Now, before we talk about who do people usually ban on Brightmarsh, let's go ahead and discuss all of the problem champions that can be here. Dredge is really annoying, but he's countered by Terminus on this map. You've got Androxus, Maeve, and Andro, who can all flank from above the objective, from above the point, using their aerial mobility or vertical mobility. It's really annoying to fight against those 3 flankers. You know, even Drogoz is good on this map if he was left unchecked, and by that I mean that the enemy didn't pick a hit scanner. For example, if the enemy picks Moji, and for example as a damage they pick Dredge, you've just basically won the match, because Drogoz is gonna be able to deal with Dredge alongside any other flanker on his side, for example Androxus plus Drogoz. So the issue with trouble champions is that you deal with them by bringing their counters in. Like for example, as we said, Moji, bring in any shield, any frontliner, Ashe or Khan, even Terminus works. Dredge, bring in Terminus, that's your only tank that can deal with them. You can bring in some flankers, like for example Androxus. You can put some pockets on them with Jenos. Jenos is really great on this map because, well, there are way too many walls. on the either sides of the map. So your positioning as a support is really always troubled on this map because of the lack of lines of sight as a support, as a backlining support. Now, blasters on this map are also a problem. Bomb King is always a problem anywhere, but for example, Willow, there are way too many closed spaces that she can close with her circles. Her dead zone is a circle, and her scorn, not the talent, sorry, seedlings, those will close off a lane. So she's really great at zoning on this map. Her ultimate is really good too, whether the point fight is still happening or you've won the point fight and are pushing or are on the defensive. You see, we're only talking about the problem champions because the entire idea about bans on this particular map is related to what your team wants to play. For example, if I wanted to play Dredge, I would ban Terminus and, for example, someone else that I would fear as Dredge. Like, for example, I don't want to deal with Androxus. Let Maeve come. Maeve will die to me as Dredge, even if I'm playing Scuttle, which is kind of good on this map. If I want to play Willow, yes, I would ban hit scanners and ban Terminus. Maybe the enemy will do me a favor and ban Terminus themselves. So I would start by banning, funny enough, someone like Leon or Victor, because I don't want to die during my ultimate. Yes, your bans most likely will depend on what your first pick wants to carry the game with. However, it's still always a static 4-person ban on this map. You always see Terminus, Androxus, Io, and Bomb King banned here. It's almost always the case in higher elo. Those are perma-banned here, and those and only those. Any of those happens to be free, you're gonna have a bad time. Fish Market, the map where you don't ban Bomb King and instead just deal with him if he is picked by the enemy. Because he simply has to flank, literally flank, and get behind you in order to do anything. He can't snipe with his stickies. He can, but the timing on that will require him to fire at a much lower rate of fire. Instead of 0.7 seconds, he might have to toss 2 stickies at different angles, and if and only if one of them hits, then he will detonate. That's gonna take him 1.5 seconds. So you've basically doubled his time to kill and made him way less efficient if he's trying to snipe, which he won't. He'll always gonna be trying to come from a flank lane with his off tank. And then, once he does achieve that, you're going to retreat and regroup with your team and deal with him anyway. Otherwise, you're gonna die. Still, you deal with BK and don't ban him here. The bans on this map are, like always, Io is permanently banned. Now, here's the funny thing about Fish Market. Androxus has damage fall off. He has to stick to flanking lanes and wait for the perfect opportunity to get a pick. Otherwise, his damage fall off isn't going to allow him whatsoever to play as a backline damage. He doesn't function like that on this map specifically. This is why many players prefer playing Maeve on this map specifically rather than Androxus. He's still great. He can do way too much on any map, including this one, but still, no damage fall off on Maeve means that on the push or the defensive, you're not at that much high of a disadvantage. And at higher elo, people will most likely rely solely on their point tank to be on the objective while they try to use the trees on the far sides of the base as cover. Otherwise, they're going to be in the open and die quickly because they're going to get focused. Now, on this map, there is only one free banning spot. The thing is, it's a sniping map. You're forced to ban Kinessa and Strix. Otherwise, you're going to have a really bad time. Next up is banning Io. As usual. Well, the free ban slot most likely in most cases will go to Victor, because he can snipe on this map relatively well. He's annoying to deal with, and his ultimate, he's gonna have way too much lines of sight to pick whomever is grouped on the right or the left, because people usually try to avoid the middle section of the map. Frog Isle, another sniping map. You know, I'm just gonna say this. Snipers don't belong in this game. They're way too unfair. They require you to dedicate resources to them. Instead of the flanker going for the support, now they have to go for both a sniper and the support, which will be hugging each other in most cases, which is sad. So you're going to have to dedicate both your off tank and your flanker to that sniper, so that they would have a better chance. I mean, your flanker would have a better chance at dealing with them. And guess what? Frog Isle does not have two flanking lanes. You don't have any cover when coming from a flank lane, except that statue that you can rotate around. Still not a good map for flankers. Usually you would see double damage compositions on this map, or flankers with high sustain, like for example Zen. Well, not exactly, but sometimes you would see Zen, okay? He's just also a flanker and not that good on this map. He doesn't have range, he just has the sustain. Well, he is viable here though. Flankers like Androxus, Maeve, and Eevee do have mobility enough to be rotating around the map efficiently. Well, mostly on Eevee and Maeve rather than Androxus. But still, it's always gonna be better off having double damage and double tank and one support on this map. You want to ban the snipers always, so 2 of your banning slots are gone for that. Next up, Io. She's really great here because she can snipe with her healing the same way that a sniper can. She can just jump over that wall, just like the snipers do, and use her healing. The heal will continue for 1 full second before you have to jump again and reconnect. Or you can just keep jumping until it'll never break. Now, the same way that snipers are banned, Victor and Vivian are really annoying to deal with here, especially that most likely there's not gonna be a flanker. You're gonna be trying to win that fight using damage versus damage. This is really weird the way that this map works. The damage champions are fighting each other, like for example, one side has Victor, the other has either Leon or Tiberius, and they're just trying to fight each other. Vivian sometimes instead, especially on console. But still, it's really annoying, you know. The point tanks are most of the time at the mercy of their support. Supports that have 2 sources of healing are really better on this map, you know. Like for example, Damba can throw the gourd for the tanks, and you would pick ripened gourd on this map specifically for that purpose, because you've gotta mitigate more damage. And then with his right mouse button, Mending Spirits, he's gonna be healing the rest of the team. Sometimes you would run double support and double tank, but still it's always gonna be preferred to run the standard composition on this map specifically. Let's talk about these 2 maps from a completely different angle. Now, on both of them, Kenessa, Strix, and Io are permabanned, and the first ban slot is the only one. You know, permabans. This is sad, you know. Now, we've already talked about BK not being banned here, because you can deal with him. However, he's good here. He still is usable here. So we can already say that there isn't a 4th ban slot on Frog Isle, because those are gonna be your bans. Now, here's the thing. What about Khan? What about Khan on both of these maps? His ultimate is really easy to hit with all of those lines of sight. You just make sure that the enemies have used their shields, for example, and then you just ult them and eat them off the map. On Fish Market, you'll be playing Storm of Bullets more likely than Vortex Grave, and that means you'll be ulting twice per round and have your ultimates 75% built for the next round. Sometimes you'll even get it completely built and ready for the next round. So this is really a sad state of the game. There are way too many permabans right now. It's all Strix and Kenessa's fault. Really. These 2 should not exist in the game whatsoever. But this is the game we're playing. They exist. They're not gonna get deleted. You know, maybe if we get some more new champions, we will get a 3rd ban slot per team, and then those snipers won't be a problem on their maps anymore, because yeah, any team will ban them, and then that's that. And then there will always be other ban slots for the other problematic champions in the game. But still, so far, I don't see that happening anytime soon. Frozen Guard. This map, I don't like this map, because on the push or the defensive, the defending team has way too much of an advantage over the other team. You can just hole up at the choke points and have your entire team poking or even getting free kills on the enemy that will be forced to use the little stones as cover. They can sort of use vertical mobility to come from the high ground on the sides, but still, the defending team is always at the advantage on this map. This is why people say it's a point fight oriented map. Now, the bans here, it's a flat map more than it has very little vertical mobility. So flat maps have this thing going for them which enables champions that can be more like backliners, like Talus for example, to work. You know, there's no need to pick Maeve, Andrew, or Eevee in here, because you don't get value out of that vertical mobility. However, that doesn't mean you don't pick them. Their base damage, it means that they're still way too good. They're still gonna be the best flankers, and the dashes allow them, and the mobility, I mean, not just Androxus, their mobility allows them to really escape most situations. Now, here's the thing about Frozen Guard. The map will most likely revolve around the point fight, so you want your bans to revolve around the point fight. Snipers are still good here, so yeah, you might waste 2 ban slots on snipers, and then you have Io. Again, we only have 1 ban left, and that's BK. That's that. You can't think more about this map. Your entire hope is to win the point fight. On the push, you're completely relying on your tanks to make the space needed for you, while you, as a flanker or as a damage, just poke from safety until the chance comes. Now, safer flankers, like for example Zen, have way too much more of an advantage here, just because their escapes and their mobility, which is flat mobility, really is better than just being able to dash aimlessly in the open. So yeah, this is a map that Zen happens to be better. Talus is good on this map, but I wouldn't pick Talus anyway. I'd rather pick Zen on PC. Ice Mines. Some people really hate this map because it is the point fight map. Once you get dismounted, you know, for example, a Talus ults early game, you've lost way too much advantage, you know. So if you're running a composition of Talus as a damage, another backline damage, and yes, I am saying you use Talus as a damage, you build his ult up so that you would dismount the entire enemy team as fast as you can, and that is a viable strategy on this map because of how long it takes to reach the points after you spawn. But still, let's go ahead and talk about the state of the map. Now, Dredge is really annoying on this map alongside BK. He really can hold off entire lanes on his own with his spam. It doesn't matter if he's playing Scuttle or Hurl, but Scuttle is always going to be better on Ice Mines. You know, if any vertical mobility champions tries to get him through the windows, he'll just broadside himself, and then that enemy is gonna be forced to retreat or eat the damage and die. So yeah, Scuttle is the Dredge talent on Ice Mines. On others, it's most likely gonna be Hurl. So you are always going to be afraid of Dredge here. He simply is really hard to deal with if he's hiding in those windows and just poking for free damage. So dealing with him really relies on the entire team knowing what they're doing, and that's really annoying. However, you've got to remember Terminus. This is Terminus's map. He simply will remove Dredge's damage by existing. So you see Terminus banned here all the time. Not because the other team wants to get Dredge, but because even if the other team doesn't pick Dredge, Terminus is still gonna be really good here. no matter if you're using him as a point tank or as an off tank. He's just got way too much utility because of the lack of lines of sight. The enemy is gonna be forced to either stop shooting or feed your siphon. Funny thing is, now it's a point fight oriented map, and some people pick Moji here because on the left flank or the right flank, if she's given the space for it, she's just going to block off that lane on her own. Anyone comes in, they're gonna die. She's gonna melt them. So it's annoying to deal with Moji here, but remember, just bring in a shield and Moji is useless. People don't ban Moji here. They don't even think of picking her, because once the point fight is over, she's most likely useless. So the permanent bans here are going to be Terminus and Io. Now the funny thing is, sometimes players ban Khan here because near the point he can yeet people off the map. You know, the spot's right here, detailed on the little portrait. But still banning Khan and not Terminus means that Terminus is gonna have a better day. He's gonna be happy that Khan got banned. Now, the best way to deal with Terminus on this map is to get a stun that goes through his siphon. One example is Furia's Beam. So most likely you'll be seeing Io banned, Terminus banned, BK banned, and the last ban is team dependent. You know, if you can save Dredge for your team, you've basically already won each point fight, just because of how good Dredge is here. If you get to not save Dredge, you know, if the enemy bans him, well, you're good to pick someone like a blaster, like Willow, for example. Her ultimate is good here. Her circles, you know, the dead zone and the seedlings will really close off lanes. She's really good. This is a map that favors blasters a lot. So be careful of those and make sure that you pick a good hit scanner to counter those. Sometimes, though, they will counter that hit scanner instead, which is kind of funny. Jaguar Falls, the map where both Dredge and Moji are a total threat. You can't reach Dredge on this map unless you use the vertical mobility to get off the map completely, rotate all the way around him, and then deal with him with a pincer attack. Dredge is really annoying, and yet you don't see him banned here, because most people underrate Dredge, okay? This is a map for Dredge, just like Brightmarsh and Alice Mines. He is really a monster here because, well, he's going to own the point. It's a small point. It's really sad. So the problem on this map is that it's nearly completely flat. Dredge really works well here. He can hold off an entire lane on his own. Doesn't matter if it's on the right or left, but near the window, you know, where you can yeet people off the map, that's his favorite spot, you know. That's the lane that you know, you're gonna be seeing him in. Now, one more thing, supports. They really have a bad time on this map because you're completely relying on your team to hold off a lane so that you would heal your point tank from that lane while being able to support the rest of your team. Grover is really great on this map simply because you'll be healing the entire team anyway, regardless. Now, snipers don't work here. Simply enough, they just don't work. So don't pick snipers here. You're just gonna get flanked and go crying. The problem with Io on this map is just that she requires lines of sight, so your team is gonna need to put in more effort to control a lane that you will be able to use. You need to overzone and overextend with your entire team and then use Luna to capture the point. That's how you would play Io here, and yes, she's still ban worthy here. So who do you ban on Jaguar Falls, since the snipers aren't any issue? The most commonly banned champions on this map are gonna be BK, Dredge, Io, and Terminus, because Terminus really is good here. Every single blaster in this game is way too good here. You know, even Drogos gets picked in this map, because he really, if you don't contest him with a hit scanner, he's going to be free. But you don't ban Drogos, you just counter him. Okay, he's not ever going to be ban worthy. He's just a balanced champion that you can counter. Serpent Beach. This map has way too many spots for Kinessa to reposition herself between. Kinessa is a must ban here, much like Frogile. Same thing about Strix, but he's kind of a little bit less annoying. Victor is also annoying here, but your bans are going to be forced on this map. You can't double think about them. It's always gonna be Bomb King. He's got way too many flank lanes to come from, way too many things he can do. On the left, he can use the Poppy Bomb to scare people from going on the left, you know, near the shore or near the clock or whatever it's called. You know, it's really sad to play against Bomb King here. You've got to ban Io on each and every map, and the two snipers. There's really not that much of a thought process here on this map. Now, I'm just gonna say something about these two maps. If this map ever comes back to ranked, people are gonna cry. Really, this map needs a full rework, not a visual one. Or just delete it, as well as Shattered Desert. These two maps are really annoying to play on, and they don't belong in ranked. Because snipers will be OP, long rangers will be OP, mid rangers simply don't work, projectile champions have a hard time. On Shattered Desert there are 7 flanking lanes, even though they're not all viable anyways. You just remove 2 of them. There are 5 viable flanking lanes. This map is just sad. It should not exist. I'm not gonna talk about bans on it because it's not in ranked. Same thing about Timbermill. But the snipers are always banned here, and Io is always gonna be banned on either of them currently. So there's only one ban slot, and that's most likely gonna go to either Vivian or Victor, because they're most likely gonna be free. Splitstone Quarry. Snipers are a must ban. Bomb King is a must ban. Io is a must ban. The rest of the champion roster, you can all deal with them on this map. And Terminus doesn't work as a point tank on this map. Don't try it out. It's really sad, because in higher elo people just stop shooting your siphon and then you're dead. Your entire sustain is your siphon. Not gonna work as a point tank here. Stonekeep. You know, this is one of the best maps in the game. But still, sadly, snipers also work here. Bomb King really does wonders on the high ground. And Io. Your bans are forced here. Sadly. Finally, we have Warder's Gate. I hate this map personally with a passion. Because, simply enough, it's not fun to play on. There are way too many spots that certain champions can use to snipe. For example, Kinessa, she can stand on the top of the arcs that are near her spawn and snipe the point from there. Of course, she's going to be open to fire. She can also stand near the doors on one of the sides of the map and snipe from there. You know, this is really sad. Snipers really are always going to be forcing you to ban them. Unless you want to deal with them, you want to try and counter them. Okay, it's possible, but it's really annoying to do. Your flankers span attention has been split to, I've gotta kill that sniper before they kill my entire team. It's really sad. It's really sad. Next up, who do you ban? Well, BK and Dredge can both do a lot on this map by coming from one of the flanking lanes. You know, on the right near the crystal, or near the left near where the enemy crystal is. They're really gonna be annoying because of the low space on the flanks. On the point, Dredge can just well, funny enough, he can either spam his in-hand weapon or use one broadside and then start spamming, and the enemy point tank is really gonna get annoyed. You know, and Dredge will be able to hole in one of the flanking lanes and defend himself from anyone coming to get him. It's really bad design, in my opinion, you know? It's really sad. Just like Ice Mines, nearly. So, who would you ban on this map? Well, 2 snipers, IO, and BK. Your hands are forced. Anyone else, you're gonna have to deal with them. Now, I know this was boring because, well, on sniping maps, you're gonna be forced to ban IO, BK, and the 2 snipers, except on Fish Market. But that's the case, you know. On other maps, you can kind of flex with your bans. On any map, you can flex with your bans. If a certain champion hard counters your main that you will carry with as the first pick, then I'd say go for it, as long as the snipers are dealt with. So, for example, if you know that you can deal with IO, you know, you might think that you wouldn't ban her. If you have the first picking advantage, force the enemy to either not ban one of those forced bans or IO. Okay, leave one of them open and get the other one. I mean, the one that is open, sorry. Well, that's how you're supposed to use the first picking advantage anyway. Thanks for watching, and hope you're enjoying Paladins.